And now we're going to follow on by looking at how broadcasting and online overlap, influence, and even change the dynamics of the industry. So I'd like to welcome on stage Michelle Landy, Chief Operating Officer of Fremantle, Asia Pacific. So Michelle, please join us on stage. Malik Ducard, Global Head of Family and Learning, YouTube. Malik, please join us on stage. Amy Finnerty, Executive Vice President of Talent Maker Studios. Amy, come on up. Alex Light, Head of Content, Vice, Australia. Alex, come on up. And Antoine Nazaret, Head of Content, APAC, Dailymotion. Thank you. This panel is going to be good fun. If you're sitting in the back, don't be afraid. You can come up front. It's just fine.
We can't see you anyway.
Yeah, that's not a worry. This topic is where different forms of content collide. So we're looking at where television and online and different forms of media actually overlap and intersect. And so this one for me is my favorite content panel. Michelle, Fremantle have sort of changed the game when it comes to television, innovation, internet, and connectivity. We just heard that, millennials, maybe social media is a little bit too broadcast or less interactive. I disagree. Can you talk to us about how Fremantle has sort of changed the game in terms of integrating and overlapping technologies and broadcasting?
Sure. Thank you for the introduction.
Yes.
I think it's important to firstly note that the way we consume programming and content has changed. And at Fremantle, we very much focus on a 360-degree ecosystem, or transmedia storytelling, if you like, in conjunction with multiple stakeholders, so broadcasters, platforms, advertisers, agencies, licensees, and most importantly, our viewers and consumers. I think viewers are increasingly wanting content anytime, anywhere, any place, any device, any platform, any language, and our business is very much aligned with that mentality. I think viewers also want, in fact, demand social interaction around content via numerous platforms. 45% of people are watching or utilising a second screen while watching television. They want to extend the experience through engagement with other fans, behind-the-scenes content, exclusive content, and other auxiliary exploitations like online gaming. I think if I could give an example of Asia's Got Talent, we just finalised, or we just had the grand final of Asia's Got Talent here in Singapore last Thursday. It was an incredibly ambitious exercise, the first pan-regional version of Got Talent. It was on AXN as a pan-regional broadcaster and on a bunch of free-to-airs as well as Youku in China. 75% of viewers were accessing Asia's Got Talent in China via mobile. And we had a multi-platform approach. So we had a website which has all manner of content. You could also audition via the website. Our YouTube channel had show clips, behind-the-scenes content, branded content for our various sponsored partners. And we had a YouTube star, Dkosh, who's a local YouTube star here in Singapore, and he was our digital host. And he interviewed contestants and talent, and that content proved to be very popular. In fact, our YouTube channel so far has garnered 84 million views in a very short period of time, which we're absolutely thrilled about. Viewers could also vote for contestants via our app, via the website, via SMS and Facebook. We had Facebook voting from 153 countries. So obviously consumers have an ability to influence the show. Facebook was our exclusive social voting partner, and they also had access to exclusive content. We did live chats with judges, which had huge audiences. For a 10-minute span, we might have had 70,000 likes. And the stats around Facebook were actually quite interesting. If I could just share, there was 4.7 million people contributed to social conversations and engagement, over 10 million AGT-related posts, comments, likes and shares, and 77% of interactions took place on mobile, which I think is pretty astounding. Most of the interactions actually came from 2 countries in the region, not surprisingly the Philippines and Indonesia, and obviously interactions peaked while the show was on air but continued in and around. We also had a show app that had behind-the-scenes content and play-along features. There were polls that then featured in show. We had music available on iTunes, and now we're rounding it out with digital content packages, spin-off content, follow-up stories to maintain the engagement between seasons. So I think Asia's Got Talent is a really good example of that sort of 360-degree content program, and hopefully we've set the bar for multi-platform engagement in Asia.
Excellent. That just sounds amazing. And the growth of this kind of engagement is just stunning.
It is.
All right. Malik, you actually have experienced both studio, broadcasting, now at YouTube. We tend to take what Michelle just said as normal, but you've seen an evolution in terms of the broadcasting experience. Where's the texture? What is it that you think that we should be focused on in terms of the engagement, in terms of the ways in which we approach it? So can you tell us a little bit about what you've seen going from studio into broadcasting, into studio, digital, and then YouTube?
Sure. So I think those examples that you gave are great, and I kind of look at it through the similar lens. Like, today's world is about multi-platform, and that's what we call it here in the room. But when you look at this generation coming up, when I look at it through the lens of my kids, like they don't know what the word multi-platform means, but they live multi-platform. And just a quick story. My now 12-year-old son, a couple years ago, when he was really into Yu-Gi-Oh, it was something that he was doing wrong at home, and I said, Harrison, no more Yu-Gi-Oh for you. He was watching it on TV. No more Yu-Gi-Oh for you. And he shut down the TV, and I caught him a couple of minutes later on the computer watching Yu-Gi-Oh on YouTube, and I said, no Yu-Gi-Oh on YouTube. And then later on, he's actually playing a Yu-Gi-Oh app on my tablet. So finally, I had to say, no Yu-Gi-Oh on any media now known, hereafter devised. So part of it is like he was gaming me, but I really think that's how this generation sees it. They ignore borders, and I think that's a good thing. They don't believe in borders in a couple of different ways. They don't believe in borders of screens, going from mobile to web to TV. They also don't really believe in borders of geography. When I look at going from screen to screen, YouTube today gets 50%. Actually, I think it's now decently over 50% of all of its views from mobile. Flashback maybe 2.5 years. I think that was like 15% or maybe even a little bit lower. Now over 50%. And when you look at some categories like family, and when you go a little bit younger in terms of the content, that's 70, 80% coming from mobile. Mobile defined as like tablets and handset phones. And then in terms of geography, with YouTube, in any particular country that you're in, all of that content uploaded in that country gets 60% of its views outside of that country. So you're really seeing this global mix and matrix. And at YouTube, we really see these trends, but also try to lean into them. But it's really the creators who are benefiting and the user who's driving it.
And anyone who doesn't realize how good Google is at publishing these statistics, go look. Google Insights, you guys do an amazing job of sharing the information that you see, and it's very relevant for people who are trying to figure out what I'm going to ask Amy, which is, okay, so we love all this new stuff. What does Maker think in terms of monetization? Are brands calling you guys directly? Are you seeing a trend towards measurable media? What is it? What's the secret sauce of Maker that you guys are focused on right now?
Yes, to answer your question, of course they are calling directly. And I think one of the things that I've seen change dramatically over the past couple of years is that the conversation between the agencies and brands with Maker and with our talent is a richer conversation. Earlier on, we were just looking, I think agencies were really just looking at these talent that had large distribution and thinking about placing content on their distribution as an ad, but now they really engage with us more on what's the best way to integrate per endemic format. So we're getting much more granular and specific and a bit more tactical with each talent in terms of, piecing those deals together. But I always come at all of this from the talent perspective. And so for me, I'm always thinking about how to build the talent's brand overall as that talent name, and how to do that through different pieces of content. And we can do that by engaging on lots and lots of different platforms. So there's the parameters that exist across different platforms these days really gives the talent a great place to respond by finding different ways to tell story across different platforms within those parameters. And so we work with agencies and brands to make sure that we're engaging in the best way with the talent across those platforms.
Well, we're going to come back to that in a little bit. I'm going to skip and go to Antoine. What's different today? You mentioned the fact that Dailymotion is a different type of experience. Now, it sounds like there's a lot of overlap between the experience of sort of the Fremantle, what they're innovating, and Dailymotion. But you mentioned that Dailymotion's different. You don't compete directly with TV. What did you mean by that?
Well, the problem I have is I basically agree with everyone, so that will be tough for me.
I know, it's hard that way.
But honestly, I think there is no point for competition whatsoever with TV producer or TV network. I think we come from a background, 10 years ago when Dailymotion was founded, nearly the same month than YouTube, by the way. It was a question of competition or even destruction from the new media to the TV company. I don't believe at all in that kind of story. And what you are explaining very well is the journey of a complementary experience by using all the social network, using all the digital platform, distributing your content. So I think we reach a point, as you mentioned, where there is, border in terms of territory doesn't matter, devices doesn't matter, the users is the king, he can decide everything. I prefer speaking about user than audience. That's my social background probably. And so it's just, we are just waiting more and more Fremantle example coming from other TV company or other TV network. That's my point. But at the end, there is no competition at all because we are not in the same framework. We are not doing the same job. In a way, I should say that Netflix is doing competition with some TV guys at a point, but not Dailymotion, and if I may, not YouTube. That's my point. Even if, we have created studios in Paris, in Japan, in London, everywhere. We have been funded some original programming. You should probably talk more about that. But we are not producer, we will not become producer, and we are not doing the same job. So we are a part of your huge part of the distribution system of the digital landscape. And it's all about distribution, it's all about engagement, it's not about competition at all. So that's my problem. I don't believe in this competition right now.
We sadly agree, so I'm going to spice it up a bit. Hello, Alex, how are you?
Hi, James.
Excellent. Vice was a really early adopter of internet and changing the publisher paradigms. God, I said the word paradigm. You were first in. You guys did some amazing things, but now you're actually doing something that we haven't talked about. You actually have a really big content deal. Can you talk to me a little bit about who you're partnered with? And then we're going to come around the room on partnerships. Where is the money coming from? Who's investing? What kind of deals are you doing? Can you talk about that?
Sure. Look, before I talk about that, I might talk briefly about how we got into video. Vice started as a magazine 20-something years ago in Montreal. It was so different that it spread very quickly. And it had a very...
Can you tell us about Vice a little bit?
By all means. Vice is the voice of youth. We're very much, I guess, a very bold and brash media company that kind of tells it straight in the voice of young people. And we tell stories that mainstream media is not telling, and we tell stories that mainstream media is telling, but we provide a different angle on that as well. And I guess those values have always, in the beginning it was about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and, everything that I probably can't talk about in Singapore. But now, as we've grown, we've stayed true to that, but it allows us to talk about more mainstream things as well. And for us, starting with the magazine, it was so different. We were telling such different stories that it spread. It was able to spread. And it took us about 10 years to get to 1 million copies of the magazine around the world. Australia, where I'm from, was the 3rd territory, and that started 11 years ago. But for us, everything changed when Spike Jones, our creative director, we came back from shooting a story in Mongolia, and he's talking to Shane Smith, and there's like, oh man, that's a great story. You shot it, right? You were filming it. And Shane was like, yeah. And went back to the office and was like, fuck, we've got to buy some video cameras and film this stuff. And so we started making video, and we did that with a partnership with Viacom, and we just very publicly started capturing our stories and very publicly going to film school and learning this. And it took us, you know, when we went digital, it took us a year to reach 1 million subscribers, 1 million UBs on our site globally. But everything kind of took off with video, and our partnership with YouTube. But our partnership with YouTube was again a real catalyst to that too. And in 1 year after putting our content on YouTube, it took us like 4 months to reach 1 million subscribers on our channels. So as a distribution platform for us, you know, we don't see digital as a supporting medium. We see it as the medium. And it's, you know, for us, content is great content wherever it lives. So, you know, we have partnerships with YouTube. We put it out through our sites. We've recently launched partnerships with Snapchat. We put up 7 videos every day that 24 hours later are gone and replaced by another 7 in the world of Snapchat. But the deal that you're talking about is 2 years ago we did a deal with HBO to do a Vice TV series. So that went. So our first season was 12 episodes long. It won an Emmy for the best documentary and non-fiction. Season 2 was excellent as well. You may have read about or seen the Dennis Rodman in North Korea piece. So that was part of the HBO show. And it's just been announced that HBO has now extended that contract with Vice. We're now going to produce 44 episodes for next season, as well as a daily half-hour news show, which will be premiered and pushed through HBO Go, as well as linear broadcast as well. So for us, you know, TV is just another platform for content. We just want to make great content and put it everywhere we can.
Wow, TV is just another platform for content. Anyone want to comment on that one? And I think it's amazing that we've come in our careers so far from broadcasting into distribution. So digital distribution. Michelle, why don't you talk a little bit about, you guys are actually diversifying into a very strong MCN online presence.
Yeah.
What's the strategy there?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously started off as a television production company, and we've had to diversify and move with the times, and digital and brand entertainment is a huge part of our strategy now. And we're owned by RTL and ultimately the Bertelsmann Group, and recently we have some sister companies that have joined us in the MCN space, Stylehall more recently, Broadband TV out of Canada, and Divimove, which is the biggest MCN in Europe. So we have a huge focus on digital, as I said. We have partnerships, I think, with everybody on this panel except Maker. We need to talk. But, you know, our YouTube relationship dates back to 2006. I dug up agreement, I think, dating back to May 2006. Mm-hmm. And we have had a very fruitful partnership on a global basis. We have about 205 channels, not all show channels. We have premium content channels as well, through channels we've created internally or through relationships with Vice. We have a food vertical called Munchies, which has done very well. And with Stylehall lifestyle content. We're focusing on automotive content, obviously talent entertainment, which is organic to our business, and as I said, fashion and beauty, and 6 key verticals that we really focus on in the digital space. Mm. We're also talking to Dailymotion as well. So yeah, I mean, you know, we're building our relationships with platforms. We have to. You know, yes. We're talking to the Lines and the Kakao Talks and the WeChats and the Youkus and the Tencents and everyone around this region that we really need to build relationships with now to avoid becoming irrelevant. It
sounds very modern. Yeah. Malik, you touched on something that differentiated what Hudson watches at home, which is Stampy. Yeah. Can you tell me, when you described it, like saying on no screen in any geography at any time, you have to really define it, but you talked about this story with Hudson and said he loves Stampy. but then you touched on he can take some of Stampy and program it.
Sure. So, and I'll describe Stampy, and this is something we work extremely closely with Maker on, and we can both talk about it.
Yeah, Stampy is signed to Maker Studios.
Stampy's awesome. But one maybe sort of a framework that partly the way I think about it is when you see these partnerships that happen, there's existing content that TV produces, and how can the value of that help to be optimized? How can you take clips and segments and episodes and get an even broader audience for it? So one example is Ellen in the United States. She's got a show, very popular show. She puts clips up every day, and it's a daytime talk show. And not everyone, or very few people I know, can watch a daytime talk show because they're working. But yet she's got a huge fan base that comes from TV, but that also comes from digital, and people discovering that content time shifted, out of that specific time block. The other sort of bucket is sort of original content or content that's designed specifically for the platform. And I think it's good as an industry for us to not only repurpose content, but what can you make that's sort of native, endemic, and natural to that platform. So that comes from TV and studios and broadcast. It also comes from some native content creators who maybe didn't start at TV or other platforms, but started digitally. This is my long drum roll up to Stampy. So Stampy is just an incredible creator. He tells stories through the game engine of Minecraft, and he tells educational, just great stories that resonate with kids, but that also has some enriching educational value in it. We kind of dub him a little bit sort of as Mr. Rogers for this generation. So I've got 3 boys who are all very much into Minecraft, and he's huge in my household. So anyway, that's kind of a side story, but we did a partnership with Stampy to create a new show called Wonder Quest that lives on YouTube. We partnered up with Maker on this, and the show is basically Stampy going into a new Minecraft world, and every episode ties to some sort of educational core curriculum standard. But as my kids watch it, they don't feel like they're learning anything, though they are, but it's entrenched in sort of entertainment value as well. The thing that's interesting about it is after you watch an episode, Stampy actually makes the Minecraft map of that episode available for download. So my kids watch the episode, and then afterwards, they actually go into the world that episode was shot in, play around, engage with each other, build things in that world. And I think that, kind of going back to this generation who don't see borders, this generation also don't see borders between the creator and the viewer. The creator is the viewer, and it goes back and forth. And that's what I saw loud and clearly with Stampy and Wonder Quest.
Yeah, we talk about, and it's been such a fun partnership putting this together. We talk about, with talent, what do you want to create, and what's the best way to connect? Really, that's what it is. And it also speaks to the way that we work with talent at Maker Studios. We signed Stampy and his channel, Stampy Longhead, into Maker Studios, and at that time asked him, what do you want to create and how do you want to connect, right? And that's how we started building out this idea of Wonder Quest, and have been very hands-on, and we produced the show, and then in partnership with YouTube, it's out now and doing very well. I mean, yeah. So it's just there's lots and lots of different ways of doing it. There isn't one way. So although we obviously think about things at scale constantly, you really do have to come down to what works best on a talent-specific level. They are always thinking about what's going to work for their audience. And so what do you want to create? What's the best way to connect? And we help fill in the blanks.
Antoine, do you agree? Isn't Dailymotion sort of a community of creators?
Yeah, obviously it is, because it's part of a social network experience. So the video sharing platform history is also a social network history. And we are not talking about audience, we are more talking about users, because they can comment, they can react, they can do everything that they want. They can upload content, of course. And especially in the esports or gaming vertical where, yeah, the border between viewers and creators is really like, there's no border, in fact. So I totally share that. Well, I think that probably my question is why it takes so many times for content creators coming from all the media to come on this digital media. Probably because they need to take care of the monetization model and everything. But I'm always pushing them, and I've done that in France, which is a crazy country for that, in order to explain them that they need to follow the audience. It's not anymore the time for them to say, hey, I have my channel, go to see, here are my content. It's about go to reach your own audience and be part of this battle for the attention, for the, yeah, I think the key moment is the battle for the attention right now. We are in a great moment for the user where in terms of media content, in terms of content, the supply is way bigger than the demand. They have like a crazy bunch of content and great content in front of them coming from classical media, original programming, co-programming, every model. At least I think they don't care about where it's coming from, but they have all of that. So at the end, the key point is how do you grab the attention? How do you grab engagement? And that's exactly where we are, all of us. And that's exciting because at the end, it's the user who decide.
So what do we think is going to shape the next 5 years? Obviously, content is king, but there's too much content. Engagement is the thing that we value. What do you see being the most important, remembering this audience is here to try and figure out a strategy. What do we need to do? What are we looking at? What are the things that you're looking at over the next 5 years? We're talking about overlap, and it sounds like it's not overlap, it's just spiraling. So what are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I think particularly in this region, smartphone penetration changes everything. It changes the distribution channels, it changes the business model, and it fundamentally changes the content itself. So, you know, there's lots of things that we're doing to move along with that in terms of the type of content we're putting out there. Obviously, there's a whole new genre of content with YouTube stars, and for content companies like us, it's about building those sort of relationships and seeing how we can work with that talent to potentially move them from online to television. I think that, you know, content, I think the next evolution is also going to be content that, or stories that is a mixture, not just of video, but of audio, of text, of gaming. I think we're headed in that direction. And I think virtual reality as well is another hot one that's coming down the pipeline content-wise as well.
You're not going to sell me on that one.
Yeah, we did, with one of our platforms is called the Creators Project, which is exploring the intersection of technology and art. And we recently did an 8-minute performance, which was a 360-degree YouTube video. So you could look at it with virtual reality, you could sit in the front row, you could look around, bands playing around you. You can really do that from an immersive point of view as well. And we've tried it for news as well. We did a broadcast from demonstrations on the streets where you could actually go and see what was happening in that 8-minute, you know, linear thing, but you could actually look around and see people running past you in video and actually experience it as if you were there as well. So that's pretty interesting. The other thing that we've been doing that's kind of interesting is live stream for news in particular as well. And I mean, I think people think about live stream and it's great for, you know, Asia's Got Talent. It's great for sporting events, and it's obviously great for music performances, but we've been playing with it in news a little bit as well. And at Ferguson, when all the riots were happening and there were nights and nights of riots, we literally just went down there and left the cameras rolling and put it straight up onto YouTube. And we would film, and our journalist would walk around and commentate for 5 hours. He'd talk to people, he'd commentate on what was happening. And that content was, you know, people might tune in for 20 minutes here, they might tune in there, but each one of those things was 200,000, 300,000 views. And again, half of those views, 3/4 of those views are not happening during the stream. They're people tuning in and watching bits of that 4-hour broadcast that lives on as well. So there's definitely some really interesting stuff happening in immersive content, in experiential and live content as well. That's kind of moving things forward.
Okay. When you say 200,000, excuse, when you say 200,000, I don't get excited. But I'm looking at PewDiePie. PewDiePie is like 36 million subs. Put it in perspective. The closing episode of Blacklist, one of my favorite shows, 9.5 million viewers. PewDiePie, 36 million subs. These guys put content out, and women, and it is amazing the audiences they get. Can we ignore this? Is it an overlap, an intersection, or a collision?
Yeah, I don't. I was going to say, yeah, no, I don't think we can ignore it.
Yeah, we're not ignoring. Obviously, the world is not ignoring it, and I think again, as the head of talent at Maker, I always come from the talent perspective, and so. It's such an exciting time right now because we really can be thinking proactively about what the next 5 years look like in terms of really growing talent brands, right? And what I think the audience is learning and the market is learning is that talent do have a real consistency in their aesthetic around the choices that they make. So they don't necessarily have to stay in that one Let's Play format, which is what PewDiePie started with. He's moving on, and lots of talent are experimenting with lots of different types of formats as well as collaborating in different ways, but their aesthetic is consistent in the way that you might say, I love a particular actor because he's made, certain choices through his career about the types of films that he's in. You can feel that consistency, and that's important in building, a talent brand. There also used to only be limited ways to collaborate on the YouTube channel with that one endemic format, and now across lots of platforms, talent can collaborate in all kinds of ways. You can seed a top talent into a piece of programming and build it around lots of emerging talent, and we're going to find that the emerging talent are popping a lot faster than they used to because those opportunities exist. They're not reliant only on the straight audience drive, back and forth from channel to channel, and so we're building an ecosystem around each talent that's going to bring them longevity.
Okay. I fully agree with that, and there's a word that we don't use like too much in sort of corporate business settings, and it's love. And I think that creators and channels have this deep love, the viewers and the creators for the viewers, and vice versa, a depth of love. And you can have two different views, think of a single video view. One is maybe more passive. The other one has layers of love that carries, I think, a certain amount of weight. The 200,000 viewers watching the live streams in Ferguson, which by the way I was one of them. Like I loved that content, not because it made me happy. It was a different type of love. It was love that I loved that there was access to what was going on in the ground in a way that I couldn't see anywhere else, full stop.
Sure.
PewDiePie, 36 million, like that fan base that he has, there's a lot of depth of love, and I think that's a key thing that we see, not only like YouTube, just digital in general, Dailymotion, like a lot of the dynamic digital platforms that are out there that allow for that two-way street to happen.
Yeah, that intimacy in relationship with the audience is so important, and keeping that consistent allows the talent to, again, experiment and create content for all kinds of platforms, as long as they keep that relationship close and intimate.
So that intimacy, is it impacting broadcasting as well? I mean, we talk about relevant, engaged. Is this borderless? Isn't it really changing the way that we actually create content? Because you're all agreeing, you're saying, you're agreeing too much. Content, talent, love, all amazing things. But isn't that changing the very fiber of our broadcasting backbone? Now, you guys sell passion. That's why we tune in.
Yeah, but we have to sell in a different way now. And as I said, it's this sort of transmedia storytelling now.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, as I said, it's a 360-degree ecosystem, and it's not just about television broadcast. It's about all the other platforms and engaging with not just television talent, but the online talent as well, as we did for Asia's Got Talent. We brought it all together, and it really worked. We want to do more of that.
Do we know how to make money in that ecosystem?
Yes.
You do.
We do, and also look, and particularly in this region, I think it's a really exciting time. I think that there's there's lots of platforms that we're engaging with, and digital ad spend is certainly not is lowish in this region, but it's definitely growing. It's not insignificant, and that's providing opportunity. So I think it's exciting times. I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in many parts of this region in particular, which I think is very interesting for a business like ours.
Okay.
One thing I'd add is, and so someone said it, collaboration. You see a lot of collaboration that's happening. Right before I flew to Singapore, I was in Tokyo and I visited our YouTube space there. And there's a set there that's from Toei in Japan, and it's a samurai set that's came directly from them and used as backdrops to shoot samurai dramas, and we brought that into the YouTube space in a partnership with Toei, a broadcaster, and opened it up to YouTube creators to actually create their own narratives and their own stories in that setting. So you see TV and digital coming together, and really sort of natural partnerships that really work well for the end viewer.
Yeah. I think an example of that in Singapore in particular is we're looking at a digital studio concept, but we're bringing together television partners, YouTube, Maker, like all the different players, the brands and agencies, because all those players are relevant in terms of working with these content creators.
And I think there's always been influence. I mean, Maker Studios was founded by talent. The first channel is called The Station, which was really a reaction to them looking for a place to do sketch comedy together because they were inspired by Saturday Night Live. So the influence really is 360.
But I kind of question, I mean, back to your question, James, like what is broadcast these days? Like 36 million subscribers, that's broadcast, right? Or are you talking about channel? Like, is it scale in broadcast, or is it traditional channel as you sort of talk to it? I mean, in Australia, like Netflix launched 2 months ago. Netflix now is estimated to be about 25% of all Australian internet traffic.
Yes.
In the space of 2 months. But it's like in terms of the television landscape in Australia, it's really interesting. Like they estimate that the audience will be down about 30% this year on last year. And what that means for the commercial networks is that they can't afford to take a risk anymore. They can't really afford, like they have these properties, like Asia's Got Talent, that they know work. And so they're doubling down on those, but they're not investing in anything new. So what's interesting is in Australia, the public broadcaster has recently commissioned a series from YouTube talent. So there's a pair called the Bondi Hipsters who basically take the piss out of Australian yuppies that live at Bondi, who eat kale, go for runs, and live a very latte-sipping lifestyle. And they were commissioned for a 6-part TV series, and that's interesting. I mean, they get the same amount of views on their video clips on YouTube as they get ratings on TV. So it kind of begs the question of what's broadcast today.
The statistics were 30% lift in total broadband internet traffic in Australia the week, not the month or 2 months, the week Netflix launched.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's just amazing. Please, Antoine.
Yeah, no, just to go in the same direction and say that in France, the French public TV has made a partnership with Vice to produce a daily show on TV. So, well, all the borders are trying to move. Well, we still have some. If we think about the sports landscape, I think most of the big events in sports are still first TV events like the World Cup, the NBA final, or any other stuff we can imagine. And in the news, it's still very TV-centric. And I think news is a great example of how TV as a media is able to grab some digital knowledge and put it directly on the screen. So if you look CNN, you will see Skype report at basically at every time. Same if I was watching the BBC for the UK election, you will see Twitter popping at every moment, and there was hashtag everywhere. So I think there is still border because there is rights and there is a commercial transition who takes times. But well, the TV has made efforts to bring also this digital knowledge directly on the screen. Excellent.
I'm going to open it up to questions, but first I just wanted to say that the real value of working with a panel like this is that you've now met some of the greatest partners that you could have. And it seems like partnerships and content and talent are the things that we need to focus on. So please appreciate the time that you've all taken, because thank you so much for making that time. I'm going to open it up for 1 or 2 questions. And remember, the largest internet event in the world was the Cricket World Cup. 1.5 million concurrents, right. And it's an Asian event. It is not a Western event. 53% of all video consumed over the internet in Asia now is at prime time. We are a digital-first nation. We are a digital-first region. And these are the people that you want to get closer to. So can I get a question from the audience? Oh, wow, we're not shy, are we? There you go. Hi.
Hi, Anil Vanwari from IndianTelevision.com. What do the folks on the panel think about Facebook video? I know monetization hasn't come in, but in even in the US, I believe, watch time on Facebook was, on a particular occasion, was bigger than even what's happening on YouTube. So, and in India, Star India has gotten off YouTube, and they've set up their own app, the Hotstar app, and they're partnering closer with Facebook. So what's your view on Facebook?
Oh, sure, yeah, I can.
You want to take that?
Happy to jump in.
I'll build on it.
So two points I'd make on that. One, I'd say that one thing that's really great about YouTube is that it's a platform where after that initial sort of video view happens, YouTube is a place of channels, and it's a place where partners and creators can shape out a channel experience where you get not only those first views, but a good library life of views that happen afterwards. In terms of Facebook specifically, and the way I look at competition in general is if you have a street and there's a single store or even 2 stores on it, that's not going to be a healthy economy for even those 2 stores and for the people who sell in those stores. If you have multiple stores and if you have a vibrant traffic in a community, and then all of a sudden that single street turns into a city and then a mega city. So I think just in terms of entrance in this space, I always see it as a positive.
Good question. Thank you.
Numbers that we've seen, we get longer watch times on YouTube, mainly because I believe that because of the autoplay, it just means that a video starts playing, it gets recorded as a view, so there's a longer watch time, slightly higher views in terms of cost per view.
So that's the Facebook is autoplay.
On Facebook, so you get more views and slightly more engagement. But, they're just different platforms. I think there's a role for both. I think, it's just deploying the right strategy in each.
Yeah, and as I said, Facebook has been a very important platform for us. It is around the globe. It certainly was for Asia's Got Talent. The engagement level was huge. We had 1.3 million fans over sort of 8 to 10 week period. It was our fastest growing page of any Fremantle Facebook page globally. The engagement was enormous, from the content that was uploaded to the live sessions with judges and chats, and so yeah, it's a very important platform for our business, and will continue to be.
One thing I'd add is, I love my Facebook page and, try to build my engagement on there. But one other, thing about YouTube is that it's a monetized platform as well, and we really work hard to make sure that there's revenue flowing and that the revenue can be shared with partners.
Excellent.
We love YouTube as well.
All right, can I get a hand for our panel? Thank you so much.
Thank you.